It's Adam Gibson here. I'm here for putting my 10 cents worth at 10 in the morning for Regional Business Connect. I'm with a business called Venture Organic. We're based here in Bangalore, and which is just outside of Byron Bay. But really, we're based on Zoom. We run workshops and help businesses in the biodiversity and the organic and the regenerative agriculture kind of space, helping create healthier food systems. We work with innovations and business ideas that can positively impact biodiversity and the transition to regenerative agriculture and better land use, with the idea that a healthier land use creates healthier soil, creates healthier food, creates healthier people, healthier planet. So that's what we're about. I've been in business since 1989. I turned 50 recently, realised I've been in business since I was 19, and never in that time had a salary. So I've always been self-employed continuously since 19, and 3 years or so currently in this current incarnation in Venture Organic. My next question is, what's the preference for marketing my business? And it's prompted to say Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram here on the questions, but my preference and where I've made a lot of money in the past is actually sort of going against that grain and using direct mail. I think a great sales letter and a good direct mail shot that's sort of hand addressed to the right person, A, will definitely get read, and B, is unusual now. You know, we get bombarded with email, and I think direct mail has some real power in it, just for the fact it's kind of old school and different. I also like JV partnerships. I like the idea of selling through rather than selling to. So I like to partner with people who have the databases of my customers. Question is, what's the biggest business disaster I've ever had, and how do I turn it around? And it's a pretty simple one for me. I spent 17 years in the gym business as a gym owner, from age 19 right through to early 30s, mid 30s. And through a bunch of different reasons, but overreaching myself and financially, and also having a dodgy business partner at the time, and a whole bunch of factors all sort of coincided to hit a point where I actually had to walk away from that business of 17 years that really was my life and my identity and my social life and my family life. Everything revolved around it. It was just this fully immersive thing, which I loved for a long time, but it had become quite tiresome. And had to walk away from that and liquidate that company and go. I didn't go bankrupt, but we liquidated and had to start from scratch. And age 36, I had to reinvent myself completely, going from a new business idea to a new understanding of myself as a business person. And it was a great exercise for me at the point of really learning to uncouple my personal self-esteem from my success or not in business. You know, just realizing I was okay in the middle of it all was the big lesson in that. And that was a good one to learn. So the way I turned that around was really, you know, I was kind of humbled by the whole experience, not because I chose to be, but because that's how it worked. And with that humbling, I really had the opportunity then to reinvent myself and reimagine who I wanted to become in business and how I wanted to play out for me, and reimagine my identity in business and how I wanted to do it. So that was it was a real personal journey, but that opened up a lot of doors for me, which I haven't looked back from. It's been it was one of the best things that ever happened in the end. So that letting me out of that, something that wasn't lighting me up, and allowing me to move into things that were and have done since, has been a great gift. One of my most important business tools, along a similar line, I use tools. It's intuitive tools. I think of intuition as my main tool. I think in business, I use as an extension of that things like muscle testing and modalities like one I use a lot. It's called Psych-K. And these are things that just access, I guess. I like to download what I need to know, and I like to use intuition and meditation sometimes, but also really just, you know, letting the muscle testing decisions using my body's natural feedback system to tell me if my kind of higher consciousness is on track or not, and testing the truth against my body. Now, if that makes any sense to people or not, but muscle testing to me is a bit of a shortcut way to access higher intuition. That's been the best thing I've ever used. I think it's allowed me to really tune into what I really want. My most prized business system is, I think currently we're using a program called Lean Stack, or the business canvas, in a couple of incubators we're running, and the lean canvas model. And that's what we used to call that when I was back in the gym, is we used to call it beer mat business planning. So sit down, if business started to go off track a bit, or we weren't making money, we'd typically go and have a couple of beers at the pub across the road from the gym after work, and then scratch out a bit of a business plan on the back, literally on the back of a beer mat. And what happened with that was just a bit of refocus and sort of clarity, and thinking, we're back focusing on this thing again. And with that beer mat business plan, that would kind of bring things around all of a sudden, just by the virtue of the fact we were focusing on things and starting to measure it again. And I think Lean Stack, or the Lean Canvas, is kind of a more formal extension of that model. That's a very, very useful thing. It saves you writing a 50-page business plan and just gets you into something that gets you up off the couch and off and going, and testing something in the market. Question is, what's my preference running a small or a large organisation? My preference is a lean and a tight team, with a very high leveraged outcome, ideally. So I look for leverage nowadays. I've had a big team in the past, and I find that kind of stressful to run a lot of people, and it's not necessarily profitable either, depending on your business. But I know in the gym business, it got more and more complex, the more people we had. I enjoy business now for the fact I don't have high overheads. I don't have a massive team over, a bit of support around me, but and we really get a very leveraged outcome out of that. So that's what I lean towards. How do I maintain work-life balance is the question here, and I sort of along the same lines as the last answer I gave. It's really for me about measuring my own productivity, not the amount of hours I'm spending at work. In the gym business, I've been in the gym 16 hours a day for 6 days a week in, week out, ongoing, and half a day on Sunday. And it was exhausting after a long time. And I've got a young family, so for me, it's about am I affecting, leveraging my time to be super productive. It's not about how many hours a day I spend in front of a computer, kind of thing. The other little litmus test I have is for work-life balance. I don't think it's necessarily just about time. It's about how happy I feel. I don't mind working really hard when it's lighting me up and it's exciting me. If it's exhausting me, it is a problem. So I just got to go by the litmus test of, am I enjoying myself right now? And if I'm enjoying myself, then work-life balance feels pretty good. If I'm still going to the gym and doing a few things like that, and spending time with the kids and spending time in the garden and things, then work-life balance tends to work itself out pretty well. But I think, am I enjoying myself? That's a big key. That's a big question. What's the most important thing to do when managing a team? For me, the big lesson in that has been just really learning to trust people and letting go, and recognizing that if I can employ 2 or 3 people who all work at, say, 70% of what I would otherwise do at 100%, then it still adds up to more than my 100%. 4 times 70 is still a lot more than 100. And realizing, for me, just recognizing that people want to do the right thing and are capable, and the more I distrust them, probably the less they'll perform, and the more I do trust, the more chance they have to shine. So that's been my biggest lesson personally. Last question is, what's the most important piece of advice I've received in running a successful business? It's kind of a mashup of a bunch of different pieces of advice, I guess, but I like the idea that my business expands, or indeed contracts, but it expands at the same rate that I do as a person, as a business owner. And that's kind of the ethos behind nearly all the mentoring and coaching we do with Venture Organic, is business will grow at the same rate that my capacity to think, develop my both emotional intelligence as well as intellectual intelligence, intellect. I think that's the important thing. As long as we're growing and expanding, then the business tends to go in the same direction. I think Buckminster Fuller also had this piece of advice, which he obviously didn't offer to me directly, but um, he asked the question of people, and I'm not particularly religious at all, but he asked this question, which I think is a good one. When you're considering a career, he said, what would God want you to do? You know, what's God's plan for you on earth? And some version of that for me, probably without the religious overtone, is really what I like exploring. That's a piece of advice. If I'm following personally the where my heart's at and what I feel is my purpose to some extent, that's really telling me I'm on track, and that's the biggest thing. I think all the effort in the world towards something that doesn't feel aligned with our higher values is just wasted effort to me, even no matter how much money you make. So, which I think so for me personally, the mentoring and the help I've had over the years, I've recognised that business is really, for me anyway, about exploring my highest potential and growing into a full version of myself, whatever that looks like at the time. So it's really business to me it's a wild ride, an exciting ride in order to see how much I can grow and expand. And that's what I love watching happen with our clients we work with and businesses and startups we work with, is seeing the founders more than anyone grow into these more expanded versions of themselves. That's a piece of key advice I think is key for everybody. That tends to help overcome a lot of small obstacles along the way and roadblocks. That's my 10 at 10. Thanks for indulging me. Been nice to share. Thank you.